The unexpected reunion. She was holding the pregnancy test in her hands when she heard the words that shattered her inside. Years later, as she opened the door to that office, he recognized her immediately. But he wasn't prepared for what walked in beside her. The phone vibrated insistently on the mahogany table, but Julian Vance couldn't take his eyes off the panoramic window of his 40th floor office. Below, Seattle stretched out like a sea of concrete and broken dreams, and he knew that somewhere in that vastness was the woman who had tormented him for 4 years. His hands trembled imperceptibly as he held the elegant business card. Torres Design, Anya Torres, CEO. Her name was scrawled on the back in handwriting he would recognize anywhere in the world. Mr. Vance. His secretary's voice echoed over the intercom, but he barely registered it. The 3 o'clock meeting is confirmed. The representatives from Torres Design have arrived. Julian closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 4 years of regret pressing on his chest like a concrete slab. He had built an empire, amassed a fortune that could sustain generations. But at this moment, he felt like a man about to face the final judgment of his life. The office door opened slowly, and time stood still. It wasn't just the representatives of Torres Design who entered. It was destiny itself walking toward him. Anya was there, more beautiful and imposing than she had ever been, carrying not just a leather folder and the authority of a successful businesswoman, but something that made Julian's world silently crumble. 2 identical little girls who possessed his eyes, his smile, his own features reflected in miniaturized feminine versions. "Good morning, Mr. Vance," Anya said, her voice controlled and professional. But he could hear the underlying tension that only someone who knew her intimately could detect. "I'm Anya Torres from Torres Design. These are my daughters, Chloe and Maya." The words, "my daughters," echoed in his mind like a painful reverberation. Not "our daughters," but "my." He had lost the right to claim any part of them on that cold December morning when he chose pride over love. Chloe, the girl with the red beret, smiled shyly, and it was like looking into a mirror of the past. The same smile his mother always said was his distinguishing mark. Maya, with her yellow beret, observed him with a familiar intensity. That same depth of gaze he recognized in his own childhood photos. They were his daughters, there was no doubt, and for 4 years they had grown, learned to walk, to talk, to dream, without him even knowing of their existence. "I apologize for bringing them," Anya continued, "but our nanny fell ill." Something in the way she pronounced "our nanny" revealed the entire life she had built. A life where she was simultaneously mother, father, provider, and protector of these 2 girls, who should have been his responsibility too. The weight of guilt hit him like an avalanche, but he forced a professional smile, even knowing his world had just been turned upside down. "Not a problem at all," he managed to say, his voice coming out huskier than intended. "Please, have a seat." But as Anya settled into the chair across from his desk, and the girls installed themselves on the corner sofa with their children's tablets, Julian knew this wouldn't be just another business meeting. It was the reckoning he had avoided for 4 years, the confrontation with the consequences of his choices, and perhaps, just perhaps, the last chance to reclaim everything he had lost for fear of loving. The past, the building of a dream 4 years and 3 months earlier, Julian Vance had met Anya Torres in the most unexpected way possible. It was a rainy September afternoon, and he was inspecting the construction of a commercial complex in downtown Seattle when he saw her for the first time. She was standing in front of the construction site, completely soaked, holding a clipboard to her chest and observing the buildings under construction with an expression of pure fascination. Her chestnut hair clung to her wet face, but her eyes shone with a passion he rarely saw in people in his field. "Excuse me, miss, but this is a restricted area," he had told her, approaching her with his usual authority. Anya turned, and for the first time in years, Julian was genuinely surprised. She showed no intimidation or embarrassment, as most people did upon encountering him. Instead, she smiled with a sincerity that completely disarmed him. "I know it's restricted, but I needed to see it up close. I'm Anya Torres, says a recent architecture graduate, and this project is absolutely revolutionary for Seattle." She began to talk about construction angles, harnessing natural light, and urban integration with a contagious enthusiasm that made Julian completely forget the rain soaking them. "Do you see that curvature on the facade?" she asked, pointing to the 20th floor. "It's brilliant how they managed to maintain functionality without compromising aesthetics. Who was the architect responsible?" Julian laughed, a genuine laugh that hadn't left his lips in months. "Actually, it was myself. I'm Julian Vance, owner of the construction company." The ensuing embarrassment was adorable. Anya blushed, stammered apologies, tried to explain she was only admiring the work, but he gently interrupted her. "How about we continue this conversation somewhere dry? I know an excellent coffee shop 2 blocks from here." And so began their story, with architecture, rain, and the most sincere laughter Julian had experienced in his adult life. In the weeks that followed, Anya became a constant presence in his routine. She showed up at the construction site with elaborate excuses. She needed to study construction techniques for a college project. She wanted to better understand the real estate market. She had questions about urban regulations. Julian knew they were just pretexts, but he pretended to believe her because her presence illuminated his days in a way he couldn't explain. She brought homemade sandwiches for the workers, knew everyone by name, and had a way of talking about construction as if every building were a work of art. "You have a different view of things," he commented one afternoon as they walked through the nearly finished site. "Most people only see concrete and steel. You see possibilities." Anya smiled, that smile that had already become his favorite part of his days. "Perhaps it's because I still believe we can build things that last forever, not just physically, but emotionally, too." She paused, looking at him with an intensity that made him feel completely exposed. "Have you ever built something with eternity in mind, Julian?" The question unsettled him in a way he couldn't explain then. Julian had built dozens of buildings, amassed millions of dollars, established a respected name in the market, but he had never thought of eternity. His constructions were investments, not legacies. His relationships were convenient, not lasting. His entire life had been calculated for immediate success, never for something that transcended time. "Not yet," he answered honestly, "but perhaps it's time to start." It was that afternoon that he kissed her for the first time, right there in the middle of the construction site, surrounded by the noise of machines and the smell of fresh cement. It was a kiss that tasted of infinite possibilities, shared dreams, of a version of himself he didn't know existed. When they separated, Anya whispered, "Now you've started building something eternal." And for a moment, looking into her eyes, Julian truly believed it could be true. The downfall, the choice of fear, the 6 months that followed were the happiest of Julian Vance's life. Anya had become not only his girlfriend, but his partner in every sense. She had finished college with honors and started working at a small architecture firm, but her afternoons were dedicated to accompanying him to meetings, site visits, and business dinners. Her youth and enthusiasm contrasted perfectly with his pragmatism, creating a dynamic that impressed clients and collaborators. Julian felt something he had never experienced, the desire to protect that laughter forever. "I love you," he said impulsively, the words escaping before he could control them. The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Then Anya smiled, that smile that had become his guiding light, and replied, "I love you too, Julian, more than I ever imagined possible." They began to talk about the future as if it were a shared certainty. They started looking for houses together, a home where our children can run barefoot, as Anya put it. It was during this time that he should have noticed the signs. The tense conversations with his parents about appropriate choices for someone of his position. The subtle comments from high society friends about Anya being too young or still inexperienced. The growing pressure to consider more strategic relationships to expand his businesses. The pressures started subtly, like almost imperceptible cracks in a wall that would later become abysses. Julian's parents, Esperanza and Richard Vance, persisted with the determination of miners seeking flaws in a precious stone, subtly pushing the idea of an alliance with the daughter of a powerful oil magnate, Serafina Hayes. You are building a wall between us, brick by brick, and I don't understand why, Anya observed one night. The breaking point came during a charity gala. Serafina Hayes was everything society expected of a suitable wife for someone in his position: sophisticated, well-connected, strategically valuable. Julian watched Serafina converse fluently with Canadian investors, then saw Anya in a corner of the party, clearly intimidated by the environment that was still new and frightening to her. That night on the way home, Anya was quiet. I don't belong in that world, do I? I'm just a young architect from a simple family. She's a corporate princess. Julian tried to deny it, but the words came out empty, without conviction. For the first time, he truly questioned whether love would be enough to overcome and all the practical differences between them. His mother called daily with updates on Serafina. His father casually mentioned missed opportunities. Julian became slowly poisoned by the voices around him. The final straw came during a family gathering in December. Julian looked at the woman who had transformed his existence into something meaningful and felt his heart break. But the conditioning of a lifetime, the social pressures, the fear of disappointing family expectations, and of limiting his business potential spoke louder than love. That cold December morning, when he uttered the words that would shatter them both forever, Julian did not know that he was rejecting not only Anya, but the two daughters silently growing in her womb, waiting to meet a father who would never know of their existence. The legacy of a single mother. In the 4 years that passed since that devastating December morning, Anya Torres had transformed from a passionate young architect into one of Seattle's most respected businesswomen. But the transformation had not only been professional. She had rebuilt her entire soul, brick by brick, as if it were one of her most ambitious architectural projects. The first months after discovering the pregnancy had been the darkest of her life. Alone, holding the positive test, she wondered how she would raise not one, but 2 girls without substantial paternal or financial support. Chloe and Maya were born on a rainy August morning, 2 identical girls who cried in perfect synchrony. "It's the 3 of us against the world," she murmured, kissing their tiny foreheads. "And we are going to win." The early years were a marathon of sleep deprivation, diapers, pediatrician visits, and freelance work done in the early hours while the girls slept. Anya discovered reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed. Slowly, her reputation as an architect began to grow. Her projects were innovative, sustainable, and humane, a reflection of someone who deeply understood what it meant to build a true home. Torres Design was born not out of traditional ambition, but out of a visceral need for a mother to guarantee security for her daughters. Now, at 28, Anya was a woman who radiated confidence and competence. Meanwhile, Julian Vance had become a prisoner of his own ambition. The 4 years since he rejected the love of his life had been financially prosperous, but emotionally devastating. Every business achievement felt hollow. The strategic marriage to Serafina Hayes had lasted exactly 2 years, 4 months, and 17 days. Their intimacy was as calculated as a commercial transaction. His nights were spent alone in the office. Every attempt to connect with other women ended in painful comparisons. None laughed like Anya. None spoke of architecture with her shining eyes. None made him want to be a better version of himself. You sabotaged the only real relationship of your life out of fear, his therapist observed. Now at 32, Julian was a man who possessed everything materially, but nothing emotionally. He knew he had traded the only thing that truly mattered, true love, for an illusion of success that was slowly killing him inside. The subsequent meetings with Anya became a delicate ritual of forced professionalism and palpable emotional tension. Julian created elaborate pretexts to prolong discussions about the Skyline Towers project, subtly prolonging his time around his daughters. One afternoon, while discussing sales strategies, Maya had a small crying fit. Julian, without thinking, got up, knelt beside the girl, and offered her water. "Thank you, Uncle Julian," Maya murmured, using a nickname no one had taught her. The word uncle cut Julian like a knife. He should be much more than an uncle to her. The evidence was undeniable, painful, overwhelming. Chloe had his stubbornness, Maya his intensity of gaze. Both possessed a precocious intelligence he recognized from his own childhood memories. "They don't know who I am, but they are already looking for me," Julian confessed to Marcus, his partner, at 2 a.m. "Then stop pretending and be honest," Marcus replied, his patience exhausted. "Those girls deserve to know their father, and Anya deserves an explanation for the 4 years you stole from them. Stop being a coward." The cowardice. That was what had defined his choices for years. Julian finally understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. The breaking point came during a final sales presentation. Anya had exceeded all expectations. But as she presented the final reports, Maya, who had been quiet in a corner, began to cry inconsolably from a high fever. Without hesitation, Julian got up and knelt beside them. He gently touched Maya's forehead, and the child, in her feverish vulnerability, leaned against him naturally. "Let me help you," he said, his voice laced with an urgency that surprised everyone. He lifted Maya into his arms. "My car is in the underground parking. It's faster than calling a taxi." Anya hesitated for a moment. Accepting his help meant breaking the professional barrier. But seeing Maya curled up against Julian's chest, breathing more calmly, she nodded. "Thank you." At the pediatric emergency room, as they waited for the doctor, Maya fell asleep in Julian's arms. He held her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "They trust you," Anya observed softly. "They both trust you, which is unusual for them. Perhaps because they recognize something," Julian replied, meeting her eyes for the first time in weeks. Something that should have been obvious from the start. In that hospital room, holding his sick daughter while the other slept leaning on his arm, Julian finally understood that there was no way to keep pretending. The truth had to be told. The final choice and redemption. The doctor confirmed that Maya had a common viral infection, and they left the hospital late in the afternoon. Julian insisted on driving them home. He carried Maya inside, noticing photographs on the walls. Anya pregnant, the girls as babies, first steps, birthdays, moments of an entire life he had missed. "You can come in if you want," Anya offered. Instantly, Julian followed her inside. While Anya prepared Maya's room, Julian stayed in the living room with Chloe. The girl showed him her drawings. There was a blank space in the drawing where a father figure should have been. "Chloe, have you ever thought about having a daddy?" Julian asked, the question escaping before he could stop himself. "Every night I ask God to send us a cool daddy," the girl replied, looking at him with her big, honest eyes. "Mommy gets sad sometimes when she thinks we don't see her. Would you stay if you could be our daddy?" The innocent question completely destroyed him. Julian knelt to her level. "Chloe, If I could go back in time and be your daddy from the beginning, I would do it in a second. Tears began to form in his eyes. Anya appeared in the doorway and watched the scene. "Sophia is sleeping," she said softly. "Julian, we need to talk about everything, about them." "I know," she replied simply. "I always knew this day would come." The kitchen conversation after Chloe fell asleep on the sofa watching cartoons. Anya and Julian finally sat across from each other in the kitchen. "They are my daughters," Julian said, breaking the tense silence. It was an affirmation loaded with certainty and regret. Anya closed her eyes for a moment. "Yes, they are your daughters. Why didn't you tell me then?" His voice was broken. "Why did you hide my existence from them?" Anya turned to face him, tears finally running freely. "Because you said you didn't love me, that I was inadequate for your world. How could I raise daughters with someone who would reject them the same way he rejected me?" "I was lying," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "About not loving you. I loved you so much it physically hurt. But I was afraid, Anya. Afraid to disappoint my family. Afraid that our love wouldn't be enough to sustain all the differences between our worlds. Afraid to be vulnerable. Then you chose to destroy everything instead of fighting for us. You chose cowardice over courage." "I know," Julian said, approaching cautiously. "I know I made the biggest mistake of my life, not only by losing you, but by losing the first 4 years of their lives. I can't recover the lost years, but I can try to be the man I should have been from the start. I can try to be the father they deserve." "What if it's too late?" Anya asked, her voice cracking. "What if you give up again when things get difficult? Are you going to leave again?" "Daddy, you are our daddy, right?" Chloe's small voice echoed from the kitchen door. The child was standing there, hair disheveled from her nap, holding her teddy bear, and watching them with a seriousness that didn't match her age. Julian slowly knelt to her level. "Yes," he finally said, his voice breaking. "I am your daddy, Chloe. Yours and Maya's." Tears began to roll down his face. "And I am so sorry for not being here from the start." Chloe studied him for a long moment, then smiled, a smile of profound relief. "I knew it. My heart knew it." "Maya, wake up! Our dream daddy showed up!" Chloe shouted, running to her sister's room. Julian followed them. Maya woke up confused, but when she saw Julian, something in her eyes changed. "Really? Are you our real daddy?" He approached the bed. "Really," he confirmed, extending his arms to her. Maya launched herself into his arms, and Chloe joined the embrace. "Why did it take you so long to find us?" Maya asked against his chest. "Because I made a terrible mistake," Julian said, holding his 2 daughters. "Because I was afraid to be a daddy, and I didn't know how to be brave like your mommy was." "Do you still love each other?" Maya asked, with the brutal honesty of children. "I never stopped loving your mommy," Julian confessed to the girls, but speaking directly to Anya. "Not for a single day." "And I could never stop loving your daddy," Anya admitted, her voice cracking. "Then you have to get married and be a real family," Maya declared. "Your daddy needs to prove that he has changed," Anya told the girls, looking at Julian, with a mixture of vulnerability and determination. "That he won't run away again when things get difficult." "How can Daddy prove it?" Chloe asked. "Practical. I can prove it with actions, every day, for the rest of our lives," Julian said. "Being here every morning to make you breakfast, being present at every school presentation, every birthday, every time you need me, and working every day to win back your mommy's trust. But what if you get scared again?" Maya's childhood insight went straight to the most painful point, the public choice. Julian fell silent for a long moment. He took out his cell phone and put it on speakerphone. "Mom? Dad?" he said to the phone, his voice calm but laden with determination. "I need you to hear something important. I have 2 daughters," he announced, looking directly at Anya as he spoke. "2 beautiful, intelligent, perfect girls who exist because I made the biggest mistake of my life 4 years ago. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I rejected the woman I loved because you made me believe she wasn't right for our family. And now she has raised our granddaughters alone for 4 years because I was too much of a coward to fight for what truly mattered. Alejandro, you need to think calmly, his mother insisted. Perhaps it's better to talk about financial arrangements, about how... This discreetly. No. Julian's response was strong. There will be nothing discreet about this. Chloe and Maya are my daughters, and I am proud of them. Anya is the woman I love, and if she allows me, I will spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve a second chance. But Julian, think about your social position, your business, the expectations. I'm thinking about us, he interrupted, looking at his daughters, who watched him with pride shining in their eyes. Because I choose my real family. I choose love over status. If you cannot accept and love these 3 extraordinary women who are my life, then you have lost a son as well. He hung up the phone and turned to Anya. This is my proof, he said. Not empty words, but a public, definitive, irreversible choice. I choose the 3 of you. Always the 3 of you. A new family begins. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and practical adjustments. Julian had made the most important decision of his life, and now he needed to prove he meant it through concrete actions. He began picking the girls up from school, taking them to the park, and helping with homework. His company continued to prosper, but now he understood that success without family was just an elegant illusion. Julian sold his minimalist apartment and bought a house in the same neighborhood as Anya, a house with a yard where Chloe could play and Maya could plant the flowers she loved. He worked from home in the afternoons, always available. 3 months later, Anya allowed him to stay in the guest room. It was the first real step toward becoming a family under the same roof. Anya lay in her own room, feeling something she had forgotten. The feeling of not being completely alone in the responsibility of protecting and loving her girls. 1 year after that first meeting at Skyline Towers, Julian woke up to the familiar sound of laughter. Chloe and Maya were trying to make a special birthday breakfast for Anya. Julian went downstairs, and together they managed to save the meal. He sat on the edge of Anya's bed later. "Happy birthday," he said, handing her a small wrapped box. "It's not a ring. We're not ready for that yet, but it's a promise." Inside was a simple necklace with 3 small charms, 2 little stars and a sun. "Chloe, Maya, and you," he explained. "The 2 lights that guide me home every day, and you, who make everything shine." "I love you," Anya said simply, the first words of love they had exchanged since the reconciliation. "And I love the man you've become." He kissed her softly, a kiss that tasted of second chances, forgiveness, and possible futures. Outside, Chloe and Maya played in the garden they had planted together, their laughter echoing through the house that had finally become a complete home. Love had conquered fear, and a family had found its way to one another. An eternal foundation. 6 months later, the Vance Torres household hummed with a rhythm built on trust and routine. Julian's consistency had slowly dismantled the walls Anya had built, and their love, now mature and tested by fire, was stronger than the youthful passion they once shared. One Saturday morning, Julian took Anya out for what he called an architectural consultation at the site of their very first meeting, the Skyline Towers complex. The area was fully developed now, a testament to Julian's professional success. But it was also where their personal life had begun its tragic, yet beautiful arc. He led her to the exact spot where he had first kissed her, surrounded by the scent of fresh cement and possibility, years ago. Today, a small, intimate intricate wooden structure stood there, a miniature, sustainable house with a vertical garden, exactly as Anya had once sketched on a napkin. "It's the sustainable home you dreamed of," Julian whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "But it's just a model. Because I realized I don't want to build a house for our family, Anya. I want to build a life with you as the foundation." He reached into his pocket. Chloe and Maya, who had been hiding nearby, suddenly ran up, holding a tiny velvet box. Julian knelt, taking the box from his daughter's hands. "I chose status and fear over you once. I will never make that mistake again. I've spent 4 years proving I can be a father, and 6 months proving I can be a man who stays." He opened the box to reveal a simple elbow. "Anya Torres, you are the architect of my life. Will you marry me? And let us finally finish building the beautiful, messy, permanent life we were meant to have." Anya's eyes, shining with unshed tears, took in her daughters, who were practically vibrating with excitement, and the man kneeling before her, who had risked everything to choose them. "Yes," she laughed, tears finally escaping. "Yes, Julian. Let's finish this construction." Chloe and Maya screamed with delight, running forward to wrap their parents in a joyful 4-person hug. The foundation was set, not just for a marriage, but for an eternity.